Hello again, my name's Diane and I design and make patchwork quilts, and this is the Enchanted Wings quilt. It's a fabric line by Bethany Salt, and I've added some black and green just to enhance it, and I've made 2 pillowcases or pillow shams to match, and I think that looks really lovely. I think anybody would like to stay in that bed. So if you are new to my channel, you are very welcome. And this video is the 3rd in the series of 3 of the Enchanted Wings quilt. And in the first video, I explained my design process, and I went through that step by step, and all the details for that are on my community page. In the second video, I completed the top, and this one I add a border to the flimsy, and then I quilt it, and then I make 2 pillow shams or pillowcases to match. And if you have difficulty putting together a quilt sandwich, especially on a larger quilt, this quilt is 69 inches square and it's quite heavy. I have a nifty little way that I put mine together, and that might be something that you might find interesting. So let me show you how I created this border. So this week I'm going to complete this Enchanted Wings quilt. So I'm going to put a border in black and green, but if you look closely you'll see that in the black border there are some 4 patches. So my intention is to bring out those 4 patches in a pattern into the black. So this black strip is 3 inches deep, and we've got 3 black strips on each side. So you've got a 15.5 inch, 20 inch and a 15.5 inch. And then we've got these blocks in between, and then I'm going to finish it by adding a 2.5 inch green border in the same fabric as I've used within the quilt, and then I will have a self-binding in black, and I'm hoping that will look beautiful. So to create the border, I've cut 2 widths of fabric in the black and the green at 1 3/4 inches wide, and I've just sewn a 1/4 inch along both lengths. And then I've pressed, and now I've cut. So I've taken those strips, they're still closed, I haven't opened them yet, and they are 3 inches by 1 3/4, and I need 8 of those, and these are 1 3/4 by 1 3/4, still the same, black on the one side, and we need 24 of those. And then I'm just going to finger press these open, and I'm going to place the 1 3/4 by 3 inches on each side of the 3 by 3. So they'll look like that, and we'll do that for all 8 of those. And then we want to take the remaining 1 3/4 by 3 inch blocks and turn those into 4 patches. We need 4 of those. And then I've pressed those and cut them to 3 inches by 5.5 inches and 3 inch square. So now we'll add the 3 inch black borders. And so I've just taken 4 of the black 20 inch strips, and I've added a block to each end. The only thing you have to make sure of is that they're both facing the same direction. So we've got the longer piece on the same side, and then when I've sewn 4 of those, I'll sew the 15.5 inch black strip to each end. So I've sewn 4 of these strips together, and now 2 of them are going to have a cornerstone on, and so all I need to do is make sure that that cornerstone needs to be in alignment with the 1 3/4 inch squares on those blocks. So we've got this piece will be facing out away from the quilt, and these 1 3/4 inches will be next to the quilt, and I just need to make sure that that is in the center going that way. So if you've watched my previous video where I made the flimsy to this quilt, you'll recall that I said I was going to put a row of stay stitching around the edges of the blocks because they were quite large and heavy. And that's great now I'm coming to put this border on, because you can just see there that stay stitching is just outside of the points of the triangles. So if I sew just on there, then I know that the point is preserved, and also that's stopping these stretch because these are half square triangles, so they won't stretch, and also they won't pull apart. So if you're going to make this quilt, I would advise that you do that stay stitching. And because we've cut the pieces accurately to fit the quilt, we're also squaring it up as we go, so it's a win-win situation.
So I'm going to show you how I layer my flimsy, my batting and my backing. And it's quite simple. I use my bed and I'll go through that process and I'll show you how I do that. You might want to put down a sheet or some card to protect your flooring or your carpet. You need to open up your windows if you're using 505 spray. And if you do have an accident with the spray, I have this product. I'm not sponsored by it or anything like that, but sometimes I found that towards the end of a can it starts to drip and those little glue spots can get onto the carpet, especially if there's a wool content, which mine has. It's a bit hard to get out of, but this, I put a few drops of this on with a cotton bud and it comes straight out. I mean, I would recommend that you try it on an inconspicuous piece of carpet, but I've had no problems at all. So let's show you how I do that.
Well, I've put the green border on and I just started to sandwich together the quilt, and then I thought that perhaps you might like to see the way I do it. And basically I strip off my bed and I lay the batting across. There's an old sheet that I've draped over the mattress, and then I lay out the batting, smooth that down, leave it for an hour or so to rest, and then I put the flimsy on top, smooth that out. I press the flimsy first, and it's really great because you can press quite hard and get rid of any wrinkles that you can see. And the batting doesn't move around because it seems to adhere a little bit to the sheet below. And all I've used is 505 spray. And now I shall press this and then I'll put the backing sheet on. So this quilt is for me. And so I've chosen to back it with a black fabric. It's 100% cotton. It's a flat sheet, 400 thread count, and it's a huge sheet, so I'll have plenty to play with. So I took the lint roller to the sheet that was covering the bed. There was quite a lot of lint that's come off that, quite a lot of cotton fibres. I've ironed this black sheet, getting rid of all the wrinkles before I put on the top with the batting. So then it's just a matter of peeling back a little bit of the top and the batting, spraying onto the batting, then pressing it down and smoothing it flat. I'm making sure that I've got plenty of ventilation, that the window's open. And now I'm going to trim away some of this excess black fabric just to reduce the weight while I'm quilting the top. Then I shall iron the top, press it all, and then tomorrow I shall start quilting. I tend not to quilt and sandwich in the same day because it's just a little bit too tiring. Well, it's quilting day today. Everything is sandwiched together and pressed. The walking foot's on. I'm going to use green thread in the top and a black thread in the bobbin, and I'm going to sew it in a simple crosshatch. Well, I'm happy with the way the thread is looking. The green adds a little bit of sparkle to that black, and then it almost disappears completely in the coloured fabric. So I'm being quite strict with myself today. I don't want to make my shoulders or my back sore, so I'm stopping after every full bobbin is used, having a little rest, doing something else, and then coming back. Well, it's all finished and I'm really pleased with it. It's so soft. It's really lovely. But I thought I'd show you the quilting close up. As you can see, it disappears into the coloured fabric and then it stands out against the black. And this is part of the reason why I like to use 3-inch half square triangles or 3-inch squares, because when I quilt it, I just do it all by eye and I go from corner to corner of all of the squares and then I go in the opposite direction. So it comes together quite quickly. And that's the quilting on the back. I have given this a lint roller many times. There still seems tiny flecks on there. I expect it'll disappear eventually, but I think that looks really lovely now. And I really like it against this green bedding. So now I'm just going to make 2 pillow shams.
So let me show you now how I made those pillowcases, or the pillow shams. I hadn't made anything like it before and I was really pleased with the way they turned out. It's quite easy, so have a go at doing that if you fancy it. I'll be doing it again.
So I'm going to make a beetle star in the centre, and I'm going to use the blue and the pink points and then background of green and a border of black. And I'm going to use the central motif from the main quilt as the main feature in these pillowcases or pillow shams. So let's have a look at the design. So I'd like my pillowcase to measure 29.5 by 19.5. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit over. And so I've started off by the central motif, which is 15.5 inch square. So I'm just going to colour that in now. And so the centre of the pillowcase will be this beautiful beetle, and that's shaded in purple. And then I'll use this lovely blue on those points. And this coral salmony pink will form the pink points. And then we'll continue that design by alternating blue pink all the way around. And then we'll put the background of green in. So that will look like that. And now I just need to alter the size. I need to make it deeper and wider. So if each of these squares measures 3 inches before it's sewn, and I add a 2-inch border in black around the outside, that will give me 29.5 by 19.5. So it's quite a simple little motif. Won't take long at all to make. So I'll do that now. Well, I'm going to make 2 pillowcases, and so I need double the quantity. So I need 2 5.5 inch squares in the beetle, 8 green 3-inch squares, and now these are all 4 3/4 inch squares, and I'm going to sew these together to make my half square triangles. So I need 2 of the blue and the beetle, 2 of the pink and the beetle, 2 of the pink and the blue, and then I need 4 of the green and the pink and 4 of the green and the blue. So I'm going to sew those all together, chain piecing, and turn those into half square triangles. Well, if you're new to my channel, my favourite way of making 3-inch half square triangles is to take a 4 3/4 inch square of fabric, 2 right sides together, sew a careful 1/4 inch seam around the edges, press to set the seam, snip the corners off, cut on the diagonal, finger press open, give me a 3-inch half square triangle. So all the half square triangles now are prepared, and so the first thing I want to do is to make the points that fit around the beetle. So I need the blue and the pink with the beetle, and I will lead with the blue. And so the blue will go on the left and the pink will go on the right, and we'll join all of those together. And then we want to put 2 of those points on the bottom and 2 of the points on the top of the 5.5 inch beetle fabric. And the other 4 points we're going to lay out like this. And where you have a pink half square triangle, the cornerstone will lead with the blue. So here we've got a blue half square triangle, so that is pink. So they're always alternating around the block from pink to blue. Okay, put those on. And that's the beautiful beetle. And now we want to follow out blue and the pink radiating out into the green. And I'll show you how I do that. And so it's just a case of following out the blue points into the green. And then we put the pink in. So the pink points come out in the same way. And then we just have 4 green 3-inch squares. So I'll sew those together, and then it's just a matter of putting 2 sashings down each side, and then we'll put a black border around. Well, I've put the border down the side in the green, 5.5 inches wide, and I've sewn on strips that were 2.5 inches deep to give me a 2-inch finish around each side. And you can just see on those wonder clips that I have attached something, and it is an old cotton pillowcase that I've just unpicked, and I've placed this on top both sides. And so what I'm going to do now is just quilt around this part of the pillowcase. I'm not going to use batting, I didn't want anything too thick. So I shall do that, and we'll have a look and see what that looks like. And there we go, that's tidied the back of that up really nicely. So all the seams from the piecing on the front are all safely enclosed in there, so that's not going to get caught. And there's just a nice little bit of detail on the front. It's very subtle, hardly noticeable at a distance, but it feels nice. And so now I'm going to put together these pillow shams. So I'm just going to trim off the backing and square them up. But I just added a tiny detail. It's in black thread, and I've just outlined this star. Again, from a distance you can't really see it, but I just think it adds something lovely. And so to make these pillowcases, it's a little bit difficult to explain clearly because I'm working with black on black. But what I've done is I've taken the exact size piece of black fabric as the pillowcase top, and I've cut that to size, squared that up with a pillowcase, and I've turned over a 1/2 inch hem, and now I've sewn that right sides together on the shorter side, and I've done the same on the opposite side, but this time I've taken a 6 inch, well it was 7 inch to start with, and then I turned over a hem again, and I've sewn that to that side. So now all I'm going to do is to make sure everywhere is squared up, and then I'm going to sew around the outsides and turn it inside out, making sure that the shorter side is on the top, the turn back. And so I've just wonder clipped the pieces together, and I've put 2 together here where the seam overlaps because I'm going to reinforce that seam. That's what we'll do next. Just sew down each side. So that's the back. So there's the opening that the pillow will go inside, and that'll tuck over to stop it falling out. And I've just added a tiny row of stitches, like a mini French seam, all the way around the edge. So it's just another little detail element that nobody will notice except me. And that's it. So let's put a pillow inside and see what it looks like. And there are the pillowcases in place. And I think they set the quilt off beautifully. I think that looks really nice. Brightens up the bedroom for the winter, and I think anybody would like to sleep in that bed.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed that video and there might be something that you find useful. Please comment if you do. Subscribe if you'd like to. If you do subscribe, you can get onto my community page. All the details of these quilts, the designs, they're all there. It's absolutely free of charge, so there's no hidden costs. And you can always comment there if you'd like to. Share if you'd like to. Give me a thumbs up if you'd want to. And I'll see you again next week. I have no plans at the moment for the quilt that I'm going to be doing. I will be quilting, but I'm not sure what yet. I'm going to tidy up my room. The lint is everywhere and black fibres, so I'm getting rid of that. I have some spring bulbs to plant, but apart from that, I will be sewing, and I'll share with you what I did next weekend. Take good care of yourselves, everybody, and thank you very much for watching. Bye.